The Downfall timeline has been disregarded as the dumping ground for the older Zelda games for over a decade at this point, often brushed off as an alternate universe by the fanbase. But I believe if we jump through enough hoops, any plot holes, contradictions, or overlooked elements can be explained. So what if the Downfall timeline we all know was written by someone with something to hide? As many others have noted before me, the Zelda series has taken heavy inspirations from the many movies by Studio Ghibli. Princess Mononoke shares the themes of the natural world and its guardians with Breath of the Wild, even having the opening of the movie looking strikingly similar to the Breath of the Wild reveal trailer. Both stories use boars to symbolise corruption or evil. Ashitaka also gets a cool corrupted arm, just like this iteration of Link receives in Tears of the Kingdom. Speaking of Tears of the Kingdom, another massive influence is clearly Castle in the Sky, with floating islands high above the surface world with remnants of a long-forgotten civilization whose technology is so advanced it is near indistinguishable from magic. But most of these are very surface-level comparisons. What if some of the more spiritual aspects of Studio Ghibli is also present within Hyrule? In My Neighbor Totoro, only those with a pure heart, such as children, are able to see dust sprites, forest spirits, and the big man himself, Totoro. This innocence grants perception beyond that of those who have lost it, similar to the forest spirits in Princess Mononoke. I believe that this concept extends into the Zelda universe, first with the Minish Cap, with Link being the one sent on the journey as opposed to the numerous Hylian soldiers due to him being a child and able to see the Minish. A less obvious example of this is seen in Ocarina of Time. There's an NPC found in Kakariko who speaks of a man who could see the truth, a character not shown but once lived in a house where the well now sits. Somewhat implied to have become the boss of the Shadow Temple, Bongo Bongo. This man could see beyond our reality, something which usually requires training your mind's eye strenuously. What if this isn't about having a magical item, but what if instead it's about having a mind unclouded by corruption like that of a child, the same childlike purity that lets Mei and Satsuki see Totoro's spirits? When you play Ocarina of Time, you're not playing through the eyes of Link, you are seeing with your own eyes, thus requiring you to find and utilise the lens of truth. But Link doesn't need them. When he is pulled 7 years into the future, he gains the body of an adult but retains the mind of a child. He is placed in a sort of stasis for these 7 years in the Chamber of Sages and loses the chance to experience growing up. This is going to start sounding a little far-fetched, but stick with me. I'd like to bring up the idea that this purity might be what gives a person the eye of truth, meaning Link could already see through these illusions without the lens of truth at all. Following this logic, he never drained the well, he never obtained the lens, he never did this quest, and most importantly, he could skip this whole time travel sequence. Which leads us to an interesting revelation. Because adult Link doesn't need the lens, the only other required reason to travel back in time is to beat the child section of the Spirit Temple to obtain the Silver Gauntlets. Whenever any form of media adds time travel to a story, it immediately complicates things. The logic can be convoluted and generally confusing, a lot of the time being up to interpretation. So here's my interpretation of time travel logic in Zelda. Going forward in time won't create a branch, it is simply a deterministic jump. You remain on the same timeline as before, just disappearing from your original time and reappearing in the future. Going back in time, even if you don't alter much, will create a branch. Let's look at Majora's Mask for an example. Due to the time loop of the game, you'll end up creating a bunch of different timelines, but unique to this game is the fact that all these splits result in the same outcome. Termina being destroyed, with the only exception being the successful cycle where you beat Majora, which leads to Twilight Princess. Another fun example is Skyward Sword, where Link travels back in time at the end of the game to defeat Demise for good, but the timeline they left would have no Demon King, no Link, and no Zelda. Which could suggest an unseen timeline, or potentially the wild timeline where the surface world doesn't get founded. The Skyloftians would then evolve into Zonai over the course of thousands of years and later founding Hyrule, leading to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. There's a lot of holes in this little side theory, but I still think it might be worth thinking about. So having explored some time travel logic, let's apply this to Ocarina of Time. Link's story starts off the same, collecting the 3 spiritual stones while meeting Zelda on the way. Going into the future, which won't create a branch, and then collecting 5 of the 6 Sage Medallions, only missing the Spirit Medallion. He then goes back in time and completes half the Spirit Temple, causing a branch in the process. After obtaining the Silver Gauntlets, he returns to the future and completes the other half, obtaining the Spirit Medallion. The rest of the game plays out as expected. Link storms Ganon's castle, beats him in a game of tennis, and weakens him in his ball form enough for Zelda to seal him away. Zelda proceeds to send Link back in time, causing another branch, resulting in 3 total timelines. The two timelines created by Zelda are the child and adult timelines, which lead to Majora's Mask and the Wind Waker respectively. This leaves us with the Spirit Temple branch, this new branch created when Link needed to obtain the Silver Gauntlets. What if this new branch is the Downfall timeline? I know what you're probably thinking, but how could this be the Downfall timeline when it is also known as the Heroes Defeated timeline? In this branch, Link isn't defeated in battle, he isn't killed by Ganon or his forces, he sort of just leaves. And this is where this theory starts to take shape. Adult Link is last seen travelling towards the desert, home of the Gerudo and Ganondorf. It is totally possible that Ganondorf, already in near total control of Hyrule, could very easily take advantage of the situation, seizing the narrative and rewriting history so that he was the one who defeated the legendary hero of time. Power isn't Ganondorf's only weapon, he is also known to be a master manipulator. The Downfall timeline isn't a story of a failed hero who died on a quest for peace, it's the story of a hero written out of history. But does this sort of revisionist history have a place within the lore of the franchise? Well, I believe it does. In the new game Age of Imprisonment, we get introduced to some new characters such as Kalamo and the Night Construct. This Night Construct is a powerful mechanical warrior designed and created by the ancient Zonai, who is brought to life by a shard of the Master Sword brought to the past at the same time as Zelda. He plays a major role in the victory of the Highlands in the imprisoning war, but was deemed too dangerous and was excluded from being in the murals recording this major event seen in Tears of the Kingdom. The existence of Null, Devourer of Blooming Life, has not been remembered in any history. Even something as sacred and powerful as the Triforce has been removed from history at this point, maybe intentionally hidden or maybe just forgotten. Ocarina of Time itself has this sort of hidden history, a bloody history if you will. The Sheikah, working in the shadows performing assassinations, torture and taking prisoners of war on behalf of the royal family, remain hidden from the general public, their history deliberately obscured. These examples suggest that Hylian history isn't reliable. It is curated, corrupted and altered. So, imagine the Downfall timeline's historians, influenced by Ganondorf's total dominion over Hyrule, giving us a fake history. Instead of 7 sages, which consist of 5 women sealing him away, it's 7 wise men who sealed him away. Instead of a hero adventuring into the desert on his quest, a hero that entered enemy territory and met his demise. Instead of a usurper king, powerful warlord defeating the legendary hero and claiming his land. What's more important than winning a battle or even a war? Winning the narrative and having history written in your favour. So, looking at this newly explored timeline branch, the story goes from being an alternate universe, a what if, to a proper timeline running alongside the others. Link's purity formed this new branch. From it came the hero's disappearance, and from his silence came a rewritten timeline, not an alternate universe. It is not a story of defeat, it is a story of erasure. A man with the mind of a child seeing through the illusions of a corrupt world. A single choice leads to a new branch, destined for Hyrule's downfall. A hero who wandered the desert and never returned. And a king who rewrote history to hide that truth. The Downfall timeline isn't the hero's failure, it's Hyrule's forgotten truth. And maybe we should start questioning who gets to decide what survives in the history books. Thanks for watching to the end. I would love to hear your thoughts on this theory. If you found this video interesting, keep an eye on the channel for a somewhat part 2, talking about the Zelda timeline from a different perspective, hopefully soon.